Roxie and the Hooligans by Phyllis Reynolds Naylor. Chapter 6 Roxie's Plan. The Hooligans wouldn't eat anything, however, and as morning wore on, all anyone could think about was water. Roxie was desperately thirsty, too. "We won't last very long if we don't get water soon," said Helvetia. "Anyone got an idea?" She was looking, of course, at Roxie. "If those men are hiding out here," Roxie told the Hooligans, "they must have brought some water with them, as well as food. And they probably came in a boat. If we can find it, maybe we can get home again." "Never mind the boat," said Simon surlily, his dry lips sticking together as he talked. "I just want a drink." "Well, since we don't have any water of our own, we'll just have to borrow some of theirs," said Roxie. "And who's going to do that?" said Helvetia. "Someone tall and skinny who can hide behind trees," said Roxie. "Someone like Simon." "Oh, no, not me," said Simon surlily. "Why not?" asked Helvetia. Simon surlily thought for a moment. "I'm allergic to bark," he said. "What?" said Helvetia. "One of you is afraid of the dark, and one is allergic to bark? What kind of hooligans are you, anyway?" This time Smoky Joe was the only one who laughed. "Then I guess I'll go by myself," said Roxie. And the Hooligans, staring after her, off she went. She could never capture a rogue elephant, she knew, and she might never survive an avalanche, but she could do this. Her clothes were still damp from the day before, her shirt clung to her body, her brown and green skirt had lost its pleats. The sweater was filthy from sand and seaweed, and her knee socks had 3 holes in one and 4 in the other. Her shoes seemed to have shrunk on her feet. It was dark in the woods. It was scary. Roxie moved as she were stalking deer. 10 slow steps forward and stop. Wait. 10 slow steps and stop. Wait. Just as Lord Thistlebottom had instructed in his book. She did not know if the men were camped here in the woods at the south end of the island, or camped in the trees at the north end. 10 more steps. Wait. 10 steps more. Wait. Finally she reached the seagrass, and peeping out from behind a tree, Roxie saw 2 robbers heading off to the east side of the island with some fishing line. When she was quite sure they were out on the rocks, she crept through the seagrass until finally she saw their tent in the trees beyond. Her heart pounded so hard she was almost afraid the men could hear it. Step by step, she pushed her way through the brush until she came to the tent. She stopped. She listened. Then she stepped just inside, afraid to go any further. There were 2 sleeping bags, a pile of clothes, a couple of pans, sacks, and boxes. Somewhere in those boxes must be water, but once inside the tent there was only one way out. What if the men came back? Roxie went back out again and moved through the tall seagrass until she could see both men over on the rocks. Then, breathing hard, she slipped back into the tent and over to the stuff piled in one corner. She looked through the sacks and stopped to listen for footprints. A swish, swish sound came from outside. Frantically she dived for the tent opening. But the men were still on the rocks, and what she had heard was only the wind blowing the seagrass. Roxie went back a 3rd time. This time, when she lifted a sack, she saw that the box beneath was filled with plastic bottles of water. Quickly, Roxie took 5 bottles. She stuck one down the waistband of her skirt, tucked one under her left arm, one under her right, and with a bottle in each hand, she crept back out of the tent and started off through the seagrass. Looking toward the sea, however, she saw only one man on the rocks. Her heart leaped, and she stood frozen where she was. But then the second man's head appeared a little farther on, and their backs were bent over their fishing gear. Roxie moved on, her footsteps in time with her beating heart. When she was quite sure she could not be seen, she stopped and slowly took the cap off of one of the bottles. Slowly, slowly, she drank 4 long gulps. Then she walked on to where the Hooligans were waiting for her. When they saw her coming, they licked their parched lips and grabbed for the bottles. Roxie held up one hand. "Only 4 swallows each," she warned them. "Yah, says who?" said Simon, grabbing one for himself. "I says," said Helvetia, whacking him on the head. "4 swallows each, just like she said. When it's gone, it's gone." One by one the hooligans took a turn with the bottle, the rest watching and counting the number of swallows. "5! You took 5, Simon," Smoky Joe said accusingly. "So what?" said Simon. He handed the bottle back, however. "I'm hungry, I'm tired, and my clothes are still wet." "Mine too," said Freddie Filch. "I hate this place." "How long are we going to have to be here anyway?" squeaked Smoky Joe, in her not quite so mean little mouse voice. "Someone should be looking for us by now," said Roxie. "The teacher will have missed us in class yesterday, and our parents know we didn't come home from school." "My parents won't miss me," said Helvetia, putting the cap back on the bottle. "I'll bet they said good riddance." "Yeah," said Freddie. "I wouldn't be surprised if my dad didn't even know I was gone." "Mine either," said Smoky Joe. Roxie sat down at the end of a log. Her clothes were wet too, and she was hungry, just like the rest of them. But she knew for sure that her parents missed her. She knew for sure that someone wanted her back, and that meant she had something the hooligans didn't. The best reason to go home.